I would like today to tell you the history of a very small village in Egypt, in Upper Egypt, where Muslims and Christians coexist in a place composed of tradition from Pharaonic, Coptic, and Arabic origins, who offer now such important and varied productions of wood artifacts. As I am more comfortable in a Pharaonic period, I am very helped by Mr. Munir Azam, which is a specialist of the patrimony Coptic and Muslim. So Hagaza is a huge village located about 30 kilometers northeast of Luxor at the edge of the Oriental Desert. The village was for long a stopping place for the pilgrims going to the Hagaz Holy Land in the Arabian Peninsula, hence the name of the village. Hagaza counts about 100,000 inhabitants. The population was famous along the centuries for producing the sakia, water wheels made of wood, mainly Acacia nilotica. In the 1930s, the water wheels started to be produced in metal, and the Hagaza carpenters had to convert themselves the production in benches, doors, or windows. So the economy of the village was quite poor. But in the late 1917s, the Association of Upper Egypt for Education and Development tried to develop a project based on the wood tradition and contact the religious congregations named the Little Brother of Jesus, congregation inspired by the papers left by Charles de Foucault, and they asked two French monks specialized in carpentry and cabinet making that for starting the project in a pragmatic way. Because of the members of this Catholic community must have a life or real activity mixed with the ordinary people. The monk Pierre, which the name was given in Arabic is Boutros until he was dead in 2005, discovered the different species of wood used traditionally by of the inhabitants and transmitting generation by generation. Boutros started to work on wood, and he was able to train a lot of young people, a lot of generations to woodworking, producing very beautiful artifacts. He died so in 2005, but the project developed in this way has changed the life and the future of the many inhabitants. Mr. Sayed Musa was one of these young people who started to benefit from this education and possesses today his own company with a workshop of 15 employers and several points to sell the objects in Egypt. He answered very kind to all of questions, and so as the storage and the manufacturing process. So the questions that I would like to answer in this study were the following ones. What is the origin of the wood employed today? What were the species used? Why do we found now fewer objects, less than in 2000s? And what is the future of the profession? As you know, Egypt is quite poor, quite dry land, and the wood cover area is not too extended. So, since the historical time, the pharaonic time, the Egyptians go abroad to bring almost half of the production of wood we found in Egypt. So for us, the origin of the species is always very important to try to understand the commercial route trades. We began our investigations by visiting the storage wood places in the open air. And on the origin of the wood in Hagaza, the people said to me that the wood was Egyptian, coming from Aswan, a little bit south, or in Kenya. And sometimes they said maybe for the Sudan. But they were very convinced that all the wood is Egyptian native species. As you can see here, they leave it, all of these trunks in open air for almost 1 or 2 years, and nothing's happened to the stock because it's very dry climate, it's very good. But sometimes they told me some very bad neighbors come put the fire in one or another place. So in these warehouses, we saw several species, the same that Brother Boutros seen when he's arrived in Egypt in 97. Belonging to the Egyptian flora, he saw the Nile acacia, who can supply a beautiful wood, or the smaller trunks of the creased thorn chijub, who provides also very nice timber. But there were also lighter and white woods, like Casuarina equisetifolia, growing today in Egypt, or also some eucalyptus species. Brother Boutros also say, just like us, the clear wood of Tamarix aphylla, other native species very used since pharaonic times for very multiple purposes. The other three not belong to the flora of Egypt, but were rather common. One is named Kai in Arabic, and according to my anatomical studies, will be Kaya anthotheca, the Africa mahogany, and the Egyptians still to say that is a native Egyptian species, which is not so. The second belong to Albizia lebec, so the third one, which is a wood very beautiful too, but it's difficult to work, a little bit interlocked grain, and they say that can produce irritations to the eyes and to the breath. And the wood of the third, very beautiful, is that of the North Indian rosewood, Dalbergia sisu. It is the wood of this very beautiful and easy to work, which will attract the attention of Brother Boutros. When he arrives, this was wood very used for fire, and sometimes for doors, to making doors, to making windows, but they didn't make in evidence the beauty of the wood. This is a species who fast growing, hence is suitable for firewood. Sapwood and heartwood have a very calorific value and is important fuel wood and charcoal source. He was very nice for them for cooking and heating. So, with the Association of Upper Egypt arise, they install a nice workshop of formation with all the necessary machines. And the use of Dalbergia sisu, Sarsua, becomes intensive. It's one of the most useful timbers in the world. The hardwood is very hard and close-grained, with a specific gravity goes to 0.62 to 0.82, something like that. It seasons very well and does not split or warp. It is extremely durable and is one of the timbers less susceptible to be attacked by termites. It is also very easy to sewing and no, it's not very easy to sewing and cutting, but permit an excellent polishing and gives a very nice surface. Around the world, this wood is used for high quality furniture, cabinet, decorative veneer, marine and aircraft plywood, ornamental joinery, carving, engraving, etc. With this Indian rosewood start a very important production in Egypt, basically for tourist people. The matter was to make some objects quite quickly, smaller, so easy to sell and to come back to our countries, and in a very reasonable price. Here you can find a very nice mixture of pharaonic, Muslims, and Christian iconography mixed it together, and it was very important at the time to sell very, very quickly. So production was abundant, and the formation, the people to be needs to be between 6 months and 1 year to be formatted. So the market was completely inundated by all of these productions since the 1972 until the Egyptian Revolution. But today, so we cannot find much Dalberia wood in Egypt, and I was very interested in knowing why and for what reason this wood started to disappear. So for that, we need to be back to the history of the plant. The natural area distribution of Dalbergia sisu is the foothills of the Himalayas, from eastern Afghanistan, through Pakistan and India to Nepal. But it's planted today in many areas in Asia, and as you can see in the Prota record map, in many countries in Africa, but not in Egypt. Still, the first point we have is Sudan. So the tree who can grow up to 25 meters, it is reproduced easily by seeds and sucker, and it's the first colonization thing for the alluvial soils, so it's very easy to product. And the only thing we have noted at the moment for Egypt is that was introduced by Ibrahim Pasha in the time of Muhammad Ali. At that time, the subject of the introduction and acclimatization of the new plants received much attention in Egypt. And his son, Ibrahim Pasha, made a great garden in Rhoda Island, very close in the middle of the Cairo, because he wants to start to make experimental research and introduce these new plants. So the period was remarkable in the history of Egypt for the creation of all of these big gardens and plants, and only in Rhoda Island we have more than 500 ornamental trees and fruit trees. So I don't know very much about the plantation of Dalbergia. For the moment, we know only because the records in Arabic is not very important, and we have only the records of the gardeners. We saw that at the time of Muhammad Ali, he sent a special gardener to India, another for Europe, another for Africa, and tried to introduce and collect it. Anyhow, we have the species listed in the most important gardens in Cairo and Aswan, but only for ornamental purpose. So, after they started to use for all of these pharaonic objects to sell, the tree became more and more rare. And what they say now is to buy one trunk. Sometimes we need to wait a lot of months. This is one problem. The second problem that there is not tourism anymore since 2011. So the production is completely changed, and they try to make utilitarian objects, boxes for the hotels or something in a command. They still to make small objects easy, but you can see in the left part, which is a traditional one, the white wood was used only to mark a difference between the Dalbergia plate and only for the eyes. But today, as the Dalbergia becomes rare, they try to use, again, woods like tamarix, which is very local, or olive wood, because also the first plantations in Fayum in olives needs to be replaced. So we have some olive wood disposition. And a lot of craftsmen gone to the government to ask what is the future of this plantation, if they can introduce again, or but the government has other priorities at the moment. So we don't know what's happened. Also, after the death of the brother Boutros, the inspiration became less and less, and now the association will send another pair of monks to try to put it again. So, thank you very much for your attention, but in that time I don't like to forget to mention two persons who is special, Dr. Sayeb Musa, but especially the brother Michel Leclerc, who is one of the most generous and kind person that I never met in my life. Thank you very much.